All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Bunny Girl Senpai, the movie.
And apparently this one is called Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl. Okay.
Okay, so
right.
it's going to be the disappearance of
Sakurajima Mai. Yeah,
Sakurajima Mai. No, if anything, it's going to be related to Shoko and Sakuta. That's kind of the big thing that still needs to be resolved in general.
Yep.
Is this like a series finale?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be a series finale. It could just be a...
Okay, I'm going to assume not necessarily then. Yeah. Because there's a lot of things they could still get into with the characters in general because problems aren't just
done,
resolved forever just because, it's no longer a, puberty syndrome effect or something like that.
And new characters could always be introduced.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But what I'm really looking forward to is some getting into the introspective look at Sakuta's mental reserves, his energy, and his just ability to keep going despite all the shit that he's gone through with his family.
Right, because the stuff that we got in the actual show, when it did focus on Sakuta, it was more of how Sakuta responded to Kaida's situation, right? Which is still, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But
it's a very big deal.
As far as like his own personal dilemma.
Yeah, I feel like if you were going to have a movie kind of cap off first season like this show had, you would very much want to re-emphasize the main character and his struggles, and then probably how the other characters then react to him dealing with those struggles.
Right.
But Jacob, there's a new thing that we're dealing with this movie that was not the case with the show. We're both completely blind for this one.
Indeed. Yeah.
Whereas you were very much the yes.
Oh
yes, I know the things. Yes.
Right. I watched the show back when it came out because it's like show about a bunny girl. Yeah. There's no way that's gonna be like good enough to warrant a reaction, right? Oh, turns out it was. I'm already watching it. Might as well keep going. But I didn't watch the movie specifically because it's like I'll hold that one off. I'm very excited to get into it because the people that I know that have seen it were like, yes, good stuff.
I'm excited because some of my best, my favorite moments in this show thus far are really high up there in terms of the emotional impact they had personally for me. So if the movie does more of that, I'm going to have a really good time here too. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Wow.
Okay.
All right. So that was a roller coaster.
Yes.
That was an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna probably have to watch this movie another time before I can say fully whether or not I'm like 100% on board with it because
time travel gets wonky.
Well, not only that, but it's a story that decided to give itself the option to change the past without actually having too many consequences. For the actual, I'm going to get both happy endings for everyone, basically.
Yeah, and it's something where this movie being if it is the end cap for the series, it really makes a lot of sense because it's the growing up, right? It's Sakuta being like, okay, I did everything I could, coming to accept and coming to terms with the fact that there are certain things I cannot change, right? Do the best to change the things that I can, and then move along, right? Live my life.
Yeah, exactly.
And he got that by the end of it.
He did learn that. And
it was a bumpy road to get there.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I don't really care about any of the convoluted aspects of the time travel because it was ultimately about a lesson that we very much could tell from the beginning of the movie, basically, that's the lesson that was probably going to be taught.
Right, and acceptance,
Yeah, acceptance of I cannot do everything, I cannot save everyone.
Right.
it's ultimately about me being able to accept the future as it comes.
I cannot actually fulfill your dreams for you, Makino Hara Shoko, because I feel for you that you're dying, but
it is ultimately not
but
my
I'm sorry.
responsibility
Yeah,
to do that.
Right. It's not my responsibility. I have a girlfriend. I'm sorry. I will do everything I can, but there are things I can't do.
Yeah. And this is something that caused Jacob and I to, specifically in the beginning, I would say, get a little bit reviled by the idea of the movie trying to insinuate that he was burdened with the idea that he had to do all this stuff for Makinahara, which understandably makes sense, not just because Mai is the best girl, no holds barred in this show, but on a serious note, it felt like it could undermine some aspect of Sakuta's characterization over the course of the show, because the last arc was Kaida.
Right. Exactly.
The last arc was Kaida. There were consequences to that arc.
Oh yeah.
Did you remember that? Like that's important.
Right.
Now, in this arc, a little bit weirdly enough, we kind of get to have our cake and eat it in that regard. And that's where I'm not fully
on board with that.
I'm not fully on board with that either. Yeah.
But as far as the character lessons that are learned, right? We got that. We got that both for Makinahara and for Sakuta, right?
And in some ways for Mai. I almost thought they were going to go into a thing of explaining what Mai was doing in episode 1, why she was in a bunny girl outfit and no one could notice her for that time.
Oh, like with crazy time shenanigans?
Yeah, and that this whole thing has been the future, which they kind of did confirm, actually.
Sure. Yeah.
That it all was the future.
Uh-huh.
And Mai kind of maybe jumped into things here because, there was an iteration where she died.
Right. Yep.
So there's, there's I don't think that's an actual thing that's, canon in the story. But I think it was a cool thing where they ended up using a callback.
Right.
And yet it came...
It was very coming full circle.
Right. But it came dangerously close to the way they were setting up the world building to where it was like, oh, that might have been time travel. No. Please don't let it be that.
Yeah, that wasn't it.
Thankfully not. Yeah.
And the idea that then he comes back to visit her and he's in a bunny outfit,
Yeah. Well, that's just good
great.
Fun.
Yeah.
So this movie felt like it was the series finale in that regard because there were so many callbacks.
And even even though there was a cool in-universe way to explain it, but if alternate timelines become a dream, then there's a reason to go back over the events of the series as a nostalgia trip for the audience, but also for the characters, because time is getting rewritten. So, okay, there you go.
Okay, so Mai and Sakuta go through the worst patch, almost really, of their relationship. Because Mai is having to wrestle with the idea that he would willingly go to his death to help someone. Right. And I like that the story basically frames this as, why? Why would you do this? When it's the heroic thing, basically saying that there are limits, Sakuta, to what you can do. You are not a superhero.
Right. And
you are not some, special being with powers or what have you.
Yep. And probably the thing where I'm going to externally process here. One of the reasons why I want to rewatch this movie is to get a better understanding of what my opinion is regarding this aspect. That some of the elements of the change that the characters underwent because of the time muckery and stuff, it got into some territory that I'm not fully sure on, of how much it was the decision of the characters in the moments and them learning their lessons and us getting to see them learn their lessons, as opposed to, we still end up getting the happy ending, right? So with Sakuta, one of the ways that they avoided this issue kind of is that he did not actually choose to... he was still wrestling with the idea of, do I let myself die in order to save
He was
Shoko?
On the edge of the sidewalk there.
Right. Yeah. He was on the edge of the sidewalk, and he's contemplating it and stuff, and seeing that struggle is really good, right? Because
in every iteration, he never really made the choice.
He never made the choice.
That's important to understand.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
right, exactly. And that's the thing that I was forgetting is that when the car ended up hitting him, he didn't realize
He still hadn't made the choice.
He still hadn't made the choice.
Yeah.
It's the I figured it'd be I go into across a crosswalk or something like that and I get hit by a car. No, the car actually loses control and you're just going to get hit, right? Like that.
Right.
Like
and he basically gets a deer in the headlights moment. And it's important that in the iteration we see where he watches Mai get hit, he lets the crosswalk go a full time before that happens to show that he is not only really struggling with it.
Yeah.
It's something where he's not even sure if he can just do it himself.
Right.
So he's just kind of sitting there like, so something's supposed to happen,
Right.
maybe?
He's not moving forward. He's still
Right.
chained basically by the idea of can I really choose to live if it means someone else dies?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I loved about this is that Sakata, try and save people if you can. But the whole idea of like, hey, let's just rewind all of time basically and undo the whole series and what happened for the sake of saving Shoko. Well, if you do that, then you will keep doing that for the rest of your life, basically, because there will always be people that you might be able to save if you can, somehow affect the past, right?
Yeah.
Now, granted, Shoko is probably the one example of from a mechanics standpoint of how it would actually be able to work. So, but that's still something that he needed to face. And the fact that then when he ended up seeing Mai die and he came to the absolute end of his rope and everything, and he went back to then save himself.
Right.
The fact that the him that saw Mai die also then died and is gone.
Well, no, disappeared.
Well, okay, disappeared, right?
Yeah.
And he did make the joke to Koga of like, we fused or whatever. And there is the whole dream thing.
And memories.
Yes.
He has all the memories of that one that went into the future.
Does he?
Yes.
Gotcha. Because I got the impression that it would just be the dream. Like he would have a dream of like, I had a crazy dream about, some stuff that feels reminiscent. And if it is that, here's why I would say it's really important that it's
But then how would he have known that he just merged with them? Oh, that's how it works. He wouldn't have known about that.
Wait, that he merged with?
Yeah. Because immediately when the bunny got hit by the car or, disappeared or what have you, he looked at the suit thing. He's like, oh, so that's how that works. Basically of saying, like, what happened to the body?
Oh, okay.
It wasn't there anymore because, and that's why Shoko wasn't there.
All right, yeah, I figured that might have just been because he had been told that there was another Sakata, and then he figured out somehow that was him. But okay, yeah, what you're saying probably makes a lot more sense.
Or that works too, I guess, because it's a thing of him being like, oh, was I just saved by Sakata? Oh, I guess I was.
Right.
So that's how that works. Okay. And that's possible too.
But regardless of which way it went, one of the things that I wanted to see how it was brought up is how Sakata comes to the point where he actually deals with the fact that as a result of his actions, Makinohara Shoko is going to die.
Right.
Now, thankfully, she didn't end up dying, but he made the decision not knowing that, and he needs to be able to be okay with both results, right?
Trust modern medicine.
Trust modern medicine, yeah. But like, even if that doesn't work out, you can't live with regrets, right? You can't feel responsible for that. Like you that is not your fault, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that the fact that basically he gets put into this situation either as a result of his actions and he knows it's as a result of his actions and then he gets the memories and all that and then all of a sudden he has to live with it. That's great because it's agency on his part.
Totally.
And if he doesn't have direct memories of that, then that's something where he then has to basically sort of cold, like it's cold water shock, like it's like, okay, now this is the situation. Sorry, she's gonna die.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? You'll have to figure it out. You don't necessarily know what was averted as a result of this. So all you know is just that, nope, you're alive and she's not.
Yeah, and ultimately one of the things that's really cool about this story and just the show and the whole thing in general is this is a story about very empathetic people that are having to deal with the fact that there are others around them suffering.
Right.
And when you are surrounded by people that are suffering that you care about, especially more than, a random stranger, there is something of a responsibility, of an attachment that you form with that basically makes you want to reject reality. And I really like this as being the core theme of the movie, is that there are times where you have to accept reality as it is and struggle through it. And
Right.
Makinohara Shoko is the character that struggled through it all. She is the one that fought through the whole convoluted mess of it to get to where they were. So in the end, when she's like, I want to not cause you all this pain that I've brought upon you there, I would like to go and try again. It's important that the movie doesn't kind of go into the hard mechanics of how that all works, because it's impossible for us to really probably write it all down so that it makes sense.
But we had that conversation with Maya of like, we'll find each other again, all that stuff, so that it's like, hey, it's even though the way it starts would have ended up being kind of different.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were differences, but everything worked out.
Yep.
But the memories, the idea that this reality that was accepted, then because it was accepted, it then kind of faded into the recesses of their subconscious through dreams, and it was just a thing that, it formed a part of who I am. Memories in some ways then, lead to that. So, a dream is just a collection of a bunch of random things that you've acquired through memory, just bombarded at you, and you're in your deep REM, and you get all this kind of stuff there. And, the timey-wimey quantum mechanics, stuff
going back
there.
and saving yourself.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
The main point of this is that both Sakuta and Makinohara were able then to accept things as they were.
Right.
And still, when it came down to it, there was that little bit of Makinohara where she's like, no, but I want to do things in a way that doesn't bring you through all of this. Now, while we get a little bit of the confusion of like, wait, so she did change everything.
Right.
My favorite part about this, as a way to kind of wrap it all up as neatly as you can, is the dream bit on her worksheet, her plans for the future.
Oh, yes.
And we have the graduate elementary school and middle school is exactly the same, basically showing that that's where the change happened, was right after there. But all the things that she has are things that are, one, tied to a specific point in time of, I will find a life goal when I'm in high school. I will go see the world when I'm in college. Those things are now localized to those specific points in time. But then also, go north when it's hot, go south when it's cold.
Right.
I will just take life as it is and just decide a wacky thing because I have that freedom.
Exactly.
But then I want to enjoy everything. That's how I want to enjoy everything life has to offer, basically saying, okay, so life is going to offer me many different things.
And I'm going
to choose to enjoy it rather than to reject it or to just simply suffer with it.
Yeah, because that's something to sort of piggyback onto that. With the first two goals, graduate elementary school, graduate middle school.
I want to live.
I want to be alive
Yep.
through those times. And I think I can count on that.
Right.
Right? That's accurate, It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
But what about actually like living your life? That's where the rest of the stuff comes in. So
yeah. And a lot of it is things that are vague. One of the things that I like about it is that so many people will put, when you're looking at the future, this pressure upon which you have to localize and decide what it is. When it's
crystal
like,
clear, specific goals.
Yeah, I can't control the future. Nope. In this story where we get into time travel and people are controlling the future, it's the thing of, I'm giving that up.
Right.
I'm not going to use that anymore.
I'm sure I will have grown into a different person by the time I get to high school or college or whatever.
So I'll find a life goal.
Right. I'll figure that out. Right.
Yeah. It's a really cool way to show that the struggle was worthwhile for her, but Sakuta and everyone else in the story did not have all of their process that they went through
Just wiped away.
undone
Yeah.
just because someone out there rejected a small part of the future, a small part of it.
Right.
Because when you make a decision for one thing, you are rejecting other things. You can only choose to spend your time, in that localized space. There is something kind of beautiful in the, attach quantum as an adjective to all these different things, aspects of the story in which every character occupies their single space, except for those weird little parts where they don't. And those are in the relationships. Those are in the little connections that they have with all those people there, the memories that they share with them. So then all these other characters are like, oh yeah, those dreams. Yeah, those dreams. Yeah, uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah, we all shared something really special here. And yet we're still sharing this here. So, yeah, convoluted, time wibbly wobbly stuff aside, I really loved the message that was put through the whole story.
And so, okay, I kind of want to talk about if I were to break this up into 3 different sections, right? Where it's the first half hour, the second half hour, third half hour.
Uh-huh.
First half hour would probably be the lowest, of the 3, because that's kind of getting it all figured out of what's going on, and and Makinahara Shoko is showing up, and it's hold on, what is this dynamic that's going on? And I'm very much on my side of no boundaries,
this is important time. Why are you butting in here?
What you're doing is unbelievably selfish, and you need to realize that, and that we don't have to go along with that.
Mm-hmm. In some ways, you could say that was the lesson. Was she needed to do something that was so aggressively selfish that it would garner a strong response from at least Mai, and potentially both Mai and Sakata.
But oh man, and even with the whole thing of you're going to get hit by a car and be brain dead and all that stuff, and in your heart transplant, and that's how I live, and I'm from the future and all that stuff. That was kind of whoa, that is a lot of very specific details I'm not fully sure I'm on board with. But when then that brought up the conversation of Sakata, this kind of savior complex thing that you have, right, as a result of your past.
Yep.
You still have that.
I gave that to you.
And I kind of gave that to you.
Yep.
And you haven't fully dealt with that. It's okay, this is good. And then we get to see Mai and how she's dealing with it, and the fact that Sakata specifically is not, right? And the whole thing of no. You don't get it. This isn't, you aren't valuing yourself nearly enough.
Right.
That you think you can just do that and that would be okay.
Yeah. That scene where she's crying at the train station.
Oh yeah, that was
that was so good. So the middle part of the movie, with everything regarding the fact that Mai's dead.
Right.
This happened. The time travel thing is actually legit. It is happening. This is no dream or what have you.
Yep.
So we need to now go and save her, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And that was the moment where the movie just kind of said, just roll with it.
Yeah. Sakurajima Mai has disappeared, and now we need to have that friend, do the thing that's wait a minute, hold on, there is a possibility to change things, and then time travel back, save yourself, and
it is very much something that makes me want to just go back and rewatch The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, because that movie must have been so influential, just like the anime was, but this is in some ways, because hear me out here, guys. This movie was great, but there were points where I didn't like it, and the reason why is in a lot of ways can be summed up as it's trying to be a Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, and it's not. It's not, and yet the ending, in combination with all the other stuff that we got, made it very, very, very worthwhile.
Yeah. If anything, I was kind of in the boat of time travel's dangerous when you actually
it is. Especially if your story didn't have it to begin with.
Yes, and there was that whole thing with Koga in the time loop, but Koga was the weakest of the arcs anyways, and that was all undone. As if it never happened, kind of.
Right. So I was worried that they were either going to undo this as if it never happened for the movie, or, which I really wouldn't like, or that they would undo everything and basically kind of reboot the story with Mai then coming up in the bunny outfit or something and being like,
exactly.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So that's something where it's all about this just misadventure that they have together. But no, they went for a different thing, which I'm kind of glad that they went through this because Sakuta really grew a lot over the course of this movie. And the worst part about this is that while you can look at it from Maki Nohara's perspective of she knows how all this is going to happen, so she needs to instigate certain things at specific times so that they lead to this conclusion, she doesn't know that she gets saved at the end.
Right.
Because that's an entirely different iteration. That's not correlated to this. Except for the fact that she was having dreams.
Yeah, the dreams thing makes... The dream thing especially makes time travel wonky because then...
the memories leaking through... It does change things a little bit.
And I guess this time travel works different than Koga's time travel because
no one else... No,
I know. But no one else in the loop was getting like dreams of other iterations or anything. But yeah.
But... the moments with Sakuta and Mai coming to grips with this whole thing, the moments with Sakuta and Maki Nohara Shoko coming to basically an understanding of how valuable the memories that they shared together are, and yet over the course of time, it's being willing to help someone else or to let someone else help you,
right?
And that's
to let go. Also,
whole thing. To let go. I think I need to rewatch this movie again, for sure. But yeah, it is one of those things where it can be neatly tied up in Maki Nohara Shoko knew about everything up until the point where they literally like had everything like melt away like a like a painting, and thus was bringing this up to the point where Sakuta will be able to basically choose to be a kind person and let her basically save herself.
The stuff that they did with the appreciate the phrases of "you did well,"
"thank you" and "I love you."
"Thank you" and "I love you." Like that was great.
That was really good.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Also Futaba, even though she was not the focus character, for this movie, the scenes with her, I really appreciated those. Like the fact that she was staying up like crazy, late at night trying to just
unravel the timeline,
be like, okay,
and be
all
like,
right, timeline stuff. Here's, let's see if we can fix this.
Yep.
That was awesome. And the fact that when everything was reset, and then we start to go through, and it's like we're slowly, starting with Kaida's haircut, and things like that. It's like, okay, yes, this is. The events of the series still happened, right? Because that's the big danger of doing that kind of time travel stuff. Yeah. So the fact that they made that clear was really helpful.
Yeah, and there were a lot of little things that were like fun, not like Easter eggs, but like fun little scenes to kind of give us a little bit of a, hey, this is gonna be okay. This is gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And the movie had a bunch of little ones like that. I do really like the idea that the haircut was just a thing that was thrown in there as like she's gonna spend time with the grandma and grandpa, but when she goes over there, she wants a haircut. So okay, this happens. But because she got a haircut, then when Sakuta wakes up, later it's that your hair is the same. Okay, cool. So then everything did happen down to that way there. But okay, all right, the key locations in the story was kind of nice to see how they kept getting revisited under different contexts.
Sure.
I very much like the idea that there is a bit of a spiritual, esoteric ending to the beach. And the beach being the place where he finds her again, but she doesn't need help. It's something where, if anything, the parents are unwarrantedly worrying about her. And I think that was a very choice kind of thing to be there.
Right, because they've had scares in the past.
Well, that's what parents do.
Well, no, totally.
Right.
But also, she was sick at one point to the point where she needed, wonders of modern medicine and or a heart transplant from someone else.
Right. Totally. I was just meaning that at this point for Sakuta and her, this is something where he's looking at this person who's free, laughing, living life, and while her parents are freaking out about her, Sakuta just kind of like, it's you, like, you did it, and the emotional catharsis of the fact that he kind of remembers through the dream basically that then it all must,
it was a very long, vivid dream,
right, and the combination of using both the time travel and then the aspects of memories as the key kind of emotional beats for a lot of the conflict, I think was rather strong, because those aspects of, well, your past, your present, your future, thus your memories, your existence, the act of living life, and then your worries, hopes, and dreams. That's basically what makes us all up. That's what makes us all up as people. So his realization of accepting both past, present, and future, and getting this nice little thing of, you didn't need to help her.
Right.
She helped herself. That's a nice little, just like, okay, cool.
But maybe she probably appreciated the grade. The flower and all that. Yeah. Also, other thing that I just want to mention, because this is something that I hadn't really thought too much of. Okay. But since we had the movie and it followed after the series, that meant we got new Kaida, which was like, I appreciated the scenes that we got with her, because that was one of those things where it's like, that's right. Because,
because she's not really an important character in the movie.
No, she's not an important character in the movie.
Koga is more important than Kaida, really.
Damn.
In the movie.
Damn, yeah.
Yeah. Koga's the one that actually notices him because of it being we're still entangled.
Oh, right.
That was a kind of a good funny.
Wow.
You never forget a butt buddy, I liked that because it was a goofy way to
have a
solve a problem that didn't necessarily need to be solved. The writing made it so that he needed to be noticed in the time travel thing, which I initially thought could be a way to bring things all the way back to what Mai was experiencing in the beginning.
It thematically was a great, like, hey, now Sakuta's in a fairly similar situation.
Except in that she didn't have any memory dream kind of shenanigans, so
it's
you
thematically
can tell
similar.
Well, right. But that's how you can tell that it was a thing that was an Easter egg callback, rather than a hard plot thing that was decided back when Mai
subtle world building type.
Right. But when this was written, they weren't thinking about the movie's plot when they came up with the more marketing decision of, here's girl in bunny outfit that is wanting some people to notice her.
Sure.
But not her senpai. Not her senpai.
But okay.
She's the senpai. Okay. Wow.
So that's the movie.
That's the movie.
That's the last of Bunny Girl Senpai.
That's the last of it. I really do think that, we'll clarify with people on Discord and stuff, but this probably is then the end of the story.
I think so.
Yeah.
The way it was talking about it seemed to be.
Yeah, and it also did seem to have a couple aspects of things where it was, hey, this character, let's resolve their little bit of conflict here. And Fudaba's, I thought, was a rather cool one in that she loves him. She cares about him so much. If he was to die doing this, all of her help, like, what would it have meant, right?
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, Futaba was the one that helped him to the point where she was practically put upon. And yet, when it came down to it, even after her arc, she continued to do that because she liked spending time with him, going through all this stuff there. She's not trying to, like, win him in some, deep, long game.
She's got eyes for big russet Kunami. Yeah.
And that might never happen either. But the idea that if he was to die doing this, and her being kind of his, the other half of his brain that
the Alfred, basically, that's like, okay, I don't know how, talk to me, Goose,
Yeah, I just loved that when she sees him again, it's just this burden just falls off her of, oh, I was so worried. Like, I could not imagine.
She was at school at winter break,
Right. And she was going through, if you will, this is a bit of a reach, she was going through her own potential rejection of the future, or rejection of reality.
Yeah, that's what the whole time, like
She
map
was probably assembling her own kind of version of things so that if things did go really bad, she might be able to do something about it.
Oh, gotcha. I thought
I'm not saying that she would literally travel back in time, but in the moment before he does something,
It's the,
try and find a solution that doesn't lead to him dying.
Right. It is natural for human beings to reject things like, the death of someone close to you, right?
Yeah.
And that if you have an option of doing something, to do everything you can, right? And then just the part of growing up is just realizing that there are times where you can't, right? There are limits to what you can do, right? But until that point, rage against the dying of the light, once more into the breach, all that stuff.
But don't idolize that. Don't idolize that. Don't worship that. Don't put that up on some pedestal like it is anything more than you making a choice.
Right.
Because
going away with Mai on all those, train trips and things like that,
that's also a choice.
That's also a choice, and it's a legitimate choice.
And you're sacrificing school. You're sacrificing a little bit of probably her work reputation.
Sure.
You're sacrificing a little bit of just
There's
stuff
a cost.
in general. There's a cost. And I feel like people will realize sometimes that they're in the midst of a struggle to choose. And it's really painful when you realize that there are no great choices. There are only choices that lead to just continuing on. And this is something that I feel like the mental health aspect of this show really handles in a kind of a deft way, like a very light touch, is that the act of making that choice and continuing on without knowing that you made the right choice or the best choice is so important compared to not choosing at all.
Yes, or only choosing once you know you've made the right choice, because most of the time you'll never get there, and then you'll end up not choosing, and you might get hit by a car or have your girlfriend run in front of you and push you out of the way and get hit by a car because you didn't choose.
Yeah. And while the story, needed to have a little bit of melodrama, brought in order to kind of bring up the idea of a choice being something that would be this tough.
Right.
And that's, debatable whether or not that was, helpful or
I could have done without all the relationship drama stuff in the first 30 minutes, but
the act of Sakuta learning that and even having to go on with it and be okay with it if it's 1,000 yen being dropped in the wish of the shrine when it could have been, just a little bit of a, like a, 10 yen coin or 100 yen coin or what have you. And it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's all going to be okay. So that's some good stuff there. And
But now that we have finished Bunny Girl Senpai as a series, Caleb, there is something else that we're going to be starting after.
We are, yeah. We're going to be starting a new show called Wotakoi. Love is hard for an otaku.
And apparently it's hard for the Poles because this one has fought long and hard.
It's been in
a few polls.
Yeah,
exactly. and it has steamrolled. So on this last one, so
let's have
let's
have a rom-com and get into another show next week. So if you want to see the first episode's reaction to that right now, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.